Hey, what's up guys? This is MugenLord here. Today I want to talk about Final Fantasy 16 because the embargo had officially lifted a couple of days ago, where content creators had a chance to be able to get their hands on with the game along with gaming media outlets as well. So they're allowed to actually share their thoughts and opinions and show actual gameplay footage of Final Fantasy 16. And it's always been a mystery here on this channel of how the gameplay will actually work. But what's not a mystery is you pressing that subscribe button and notification bell, updates on my latest content as far as JRPGs, fighting games, everything here on this channel. So we're gonna dive right into it. Now, Final Fantasy 16, if you haven't been here on this channel, you guys may not know my opinion on it. I think that Final Fantasy 16 is going to be an amazing game. Come on, we have Yoshi P and his team that worked on Final Fantasy 14 online, and he's the main reason and why Square Enix is not in debt or in trouble right now, because Final Fantasy 14 is doing most of the heavy lifting for the company. So they decided to allow him to pretty much head his own mainline Final Fantasy game, which I think is a really cool idea. And you can see the essence of Yoshi P in the Final Fantasy 14 type of life oozing into Final Fantasy 16 with his overall designs and characters, which I think is pretty cool as well. So we getting that Yoshi P touch with a mainline Final Fantasy game, which I think is pretty cool. Now, I'm not saying that Final Fantasy 14 is not a mainline game, but you get what I'm saying. That single player Final Fantasy experience we're getting from Yoshi P himself. So I had no doubt about that. Now, my concerns was the fact is that when they revealed Final Fantasy 16, we had got a chance to see the combat, and the combat really shows that they're leaning more into the heavy action-based type of gameplay, and where Final Fantasy is definitely going more and more in that direction. But the fact is that we know that we have the battle director from Devil May Cry, Dragon's Dogma. You can see that essence, you can see that Devil May Cry and Dragon Dogma feel seeping into Final Fantasy 16, which also give me the feeling that, man, this is Final Fantasy is starting to lose more and more of its identity of what Final Fantasy is in terms of combat, in terms of gameplay. Now it's going into more of this action-oriented type of combat that you don't really see in a mainline Final Fantasy game. So that was really my concern. And then the second concern was also the fact is that we seen no party members at all when the game was first revealed. But later on, of course, as you know, they started showing more gameplay, Yoshi P also, pretty much quelled that concern down, saying yes, there are, party members in this game, but temper your expectation. This is a Clive focused JRPG Final Fantasy game. So there are party members in the game, but they're also AI driven, which means you have no control over the party members at all. But they will play an essential role in the game. They will come in and out of your party based on where you're at in the story. So that pretty much answered whether or not there's going to be parties in the game. So it still has that Final Fantasy, traditional Final Fantasy sense, where you go on a grand adventure with other party members with special, classes, special abilities and stuff like that. But now, you taking control over them is not a thing. It's more Clive, more single man type of action focus when it comes to the game. And I think they had to go with that is because of what they're really going with this game. And this is what we're going to discuss here, because it seems like Yoshi P really want to create something grand on a grand scale, because what's the main focus of Final Fantasy 16, especially the battles, is the icons. Icons are essentially what we would call the summons in any other Final Fantasy game, but they pretty much take the front seat in Final Fantasy 16. And you can tell that with Final Fantasy 16, Yoshi P and his team really want the combat to really stand out. It's more specifically the icons. And in order for you to get this grand scale of the combat with the icons, you also would have to change up the combat system and how the gameplay overall feels and how it flows in order for it to look right in this particular kind of game. So that's why I do understand why they had to change the combat, is because of what they're going for. Because look at what Clive is doing to these big monsters. He's fighting Garuda, something that's 20 times his size, and he's zipping and flying across the levels like it's purely nothing, and he's dragging and pulling them down to the ground and just obliterating them, this small guy. So in order for you to be able to reflect that, and what Yoshi P is trying to accomplish, that sense of grandeur and that sense of power, you know, and trying to give it to the player itself, he overall had to chase your overall combat and how it plays, which is kind of, I guess you would say, yeah, one end, it's really cool, it looks epic, and I'm pretty sure from with the hands-on experience with the content creators and the gaming outlets had, they said they enjoyed their time. But the more and more I look at it, I said, damn, man, it's like what have they done to my Final Fantasy? It's totally not Final Fantasy anymore. And I'm not saying that the game is going to be bad because of that, but you can tell that it's definitely taken a totally different identity, and Final Fantasy is no longer going to be the same moving forward after 16. After seeing this. Now, the other thing about the combat is they wanted to make it accessible to players who pretty much don't know much or aren't really good at action-based games. They decided to include a ring system, and as you progress through the game, these ring systems are pretty much like assistant tools. These assistant tools can be used for specific parts of combat. Like, for instance, it would slow down time to allow you to be able to get a chance to gather yourself to say, hey, I'm going to parry this attack, or I'm going to dodge this attack. So they want to have various different rings for various situations. Now, I know some people don't like that, but I always say this: if they have easy mode features and you're a veteran player, or you're a player that don't rely on easy mode, I don't see why, you know, you should get upset, especially if it doesn't affect you, especially if that feature is there and you'll never use it. So I understand that they want to make it accessible for players to be able to play Final Fantasy 16. I think this is a way to get people to actually try a Final Fantasy game. So if you make the experience as smooth as possible for the player, they'll continue to get into the game and play it. And hey, maybe they'll take off the assistance as they get more comfortable with playing the game. So I do understand that. Now, as far as the visuals concerned, where I talked about before with Final Fantasy 16, it really looks like a really good game. It also has that, how can I explain it? The textures, it has that gray type of filter on it. It has that Witcher feel to it, and Clive doesn't really help the situation even more. The way his armor, the way he carries his sword, and the way he moves, it reminds me of Geralt from The Witcher. So I think, you know, even though, you know, of course Yoshi P is and his team is creative, it seemed like they pretty much took some of that inspiration from The Witcher as far as the looks is concerned, and that's not a bad thing, because if you're going to take inspiration from something, I think Witcher 3 is something you should take inspiration from as well. Now, the biggest thing that I was always worrying about or wondering about was the big 1v1 icon battles, and we finally got a chance to see that. And I would say that yes, it does look epic. It really does, where it shows Infra and Garuda, you know, going back and forth into like a Godzilla type of, or a kaiju type battle, which I think it looks really looks pretty good. And this is why I said that they wanted to put more so emphasis on high octane combat, because also with the high octane combat, they made it to where it seamlessly goes into these cutscenes, and that's what they want you to feel like you have control in every aspect of the combat, every aspect of what Clive is doing. So in order to pretty much make you feel like you're a part of the gameplay experience, they had to shift the combat into a sense where they can seamlessly go in and out of cutscenes, and you're allowed to interact with the cutscenes that still make you feel like you're involved with the game. So I think this is something that they pretty much had learned from Final Fantasy VII Remake, in my opinion, how when you have boss battles, and the boss battles would go straight into a cutscene, and then it would shift back into the gameplay itself. But it seemed like with 16, they wanted to, you know, kick things up a notch when it comes to that. Now, also, I think a lot of people talked about this, and you know, people are excited about it or think it's pretty cool. You also have a dog named Torgal. Torgal is pretty much your partner, who will always be by your side, or a majority of the time be by your side, even when you don't have party members. At whatever moment or segment that you are in, in the story, you will always have Torgal, and he will help you out in combat. You can be able to issue out commands and everything. So that having that dog companion, we able to finally see him in action, you know, for himself this time around, which I think is pretty cool. And I think a lot of people's going to definitely love that when they get a chance to actually play the game. But the overall aspect of Final Fantasy 16 is shaping up to be well, and we finally got, I believe, a June 22nd release date, and they've also announced that we will be getting a playable demo of Final Fantasy 16, I guess a week or two before the game release, similar to we had Final Fantasy 7 Remake when that demo released not too long before the actual game release. So we pretty much getting that same aspect. And now I know a lot of people was also concerned and wondering, said, you know, what's up with the exploration, what's up with the dungeons, will we see anything in that case? Yoshi P, he pretty much said that yes, there will be exploration in the game. The game is not open world, but it's not also corridor, you know, linear, like in that sense. So we're going to probably pretty much get like a grand scale of zones that you in big areas with multiple branching paths. So you will get that traditional sense of exploration that you will find in an RPG back in the day. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. So as far as the game runtime is concerned, it's probably going to be probably like 30. The story probably be like 30 hours long. But they also promise that we'll pretty much get a ton of different quests in the game, so the game's gonna be filled up with a lot of things to essentially do in the game. So that pretty much wraps this up. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on Final Fantasy 16 and its overall gameplay. I'm going to pick the game up because, I mean, like I said, despite me feeling the way I feel, there's a lot of people that I talk to personally, and even in my Discord, and people that I talked to on Twitter said, dude, you know, I just want to hear your overall thoughts and opinion on the game and how you feel about it, because there's some people who don't want to get the game, but there's people that actually care about my opinion, just want to hear my overall thoughts, and people just want to see content from Final Fantasy on my channel as well. So why not give the fans what they want, give the viewers what they want, give them the content that they want. You know, overall it's a win-win situation. You know, I'm able to try Final Fantasy 16 and also create content for you guys to give you my overall thoughts and experience on it. So that wraps this video up. If you like the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, because it definitely helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And that wraps everything up. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.